So hello all, thank you for joining us today. My name is Ryan Anderson. I'm the outreach manager here with Kendal at Home. And so we've been having these course series going on with a wide range of topics relating to planning your estate, financial. Now we're touching on to insurance here with Medicare. And we hope to be able to educate and engage and inform people about a wide variety of issues that affect them day to day and in the future too. So we're hoping that you, your family, your friends, any loved ones will continue to join us here throughout this fall and winter and as we progress through these series. And so, I mean, hopefully too, we can get some in person, barring conditions. And we also want to thank to the Friends Foundation for the Aging on sponsoring our programming, being able to support us and allow us to put on this programming for you all as well. So I'm joined today with Sue Boykin, who's the Marketing and Events Coordinator with Kendal at Home here in our Cleveland office. She's going to be managing behind the scenes stuff, making sure that everything runs smoothly today. She'll be managing the chat, the Q&A. As questions come up and arise, feel free to type those into the Q&A or the chat, and Sue will moderate those and make sure we touch on those throughout the presentation. And with us today is our esteemed guest, Mary Lee Pitchard. She is the community liaison for the Ohio Department of Insurance. And she is an expert in all things Medicare and insurance. So Mary, we are very much looking forward to this presentation. There's a lot of things that come up, not just with Medicare in general, but like on a year-to-year basis too with Medicare. Things to look out for, things to be aware of, changes, making sure that you're doing the right thing with something as important, both health-wise and financially as Medicare. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to do a Medicare checkup today. You ready? Don't you love Medicare? Isn't it easy? Okay, I'm going to tell you who I am. Again, my name is Mary, and I work for the Department of Insurance here in Ohio. And the division I work for is called OSHIP. And we call it that because it stands for the Ohio Senior Health Insurance Information Program. It's a mouthful, isn't it? But what we do is that we provide free, unbiased information about Medicare. So we are funded by Medicare, and there's a SHIP in every single state and territory. So we are, I always say, the educational arm of Medicare. So a couple of things that you might not know that we do, like we provide live speakers, we provide hybrid speakers like me today with a Zoom. We also have a hotline that's in Ohio. Real live people answer the phone and they know a lot about Ohio and Medicare. So feel free to call them anytime, Monday to Friday, business hours, and there's the hotline number. We also do virtual counseling, which is something that we started this past year. So if you would like to have a one-on-one appointment with one of our counselors, you can always log on to that website. To that email address, and that will take you to our counseling, and you can schedule a counseling. A lot of people are doing this for open enrollment, and we're going to talk about open enrollment and what that means to you. And then we just partner with community groups just like this today, so that we can provide like local personalized counseling services. So in a crazy COVID year, everything is a little bit of a hybrid. So today I'm doing a live Zoom, and we can do virtual counselings, but we might even be in your areas doing live counselings if they don't cancel at the last minute. So I know all of you know it's been a crazy year. I'm just going to start out with my favorite chart. What is Medicare, right? Medicare is federal health insurance. I always like to make it real simple. It's federal health insurance meant for people 65 and older. And you can also be on Medicare if you are disabled at any age once you've been on disability for 2 years and if you were diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. So there are just a couple of options for Medicare. And I bet you're thinking there's a lot more than a couple, right? Because I know you're bombarded with Medicare mail this time of year because we're heading into Medicare's open enrollment period. If you're new to Medicare, you're getting a ton of mail because everyone wants you to join their plan. And I bet you see a little bit on TV. Anybody see Joe Namath on TV talking about Medicare? How about JJ? Have you seen that one? Remember him from Good Times? JJ is talking about Medicare this year. So there's a lot of buzz around Medicare as always, but I always like to kind of just simmer it down a little bit and explain those two options. That first one is original Medicare. It's parts A and B. That's federal Medicare, Part A hospital, Part B medical. Signed into federal law in 1965. So it's been around a little bit. Fairly straightforward, but it never was intended to pay 100%. So everybody needs some type of a secondary insurance that's going to coordinate with Medicare. The secondary insurance is what makes it complicated sometimes. So secondary insurance could look like maybe a group health insurance plan that maybe your former employer provides. You could be part of a retirement system. Ohio has some pretty large retirement systems like state teachers, public employees. So you could get your secondary insurance through that group. Some folks might be eligible for Medicaid, which is for people with limited income and resources. So Medicaid can be a secondary to Medicare as well. And then for those of you that don't have those types of secondary, there's something called a Medicare Supplement or a Medigap. It's called a few names, and I'll talk about that. That's a very common secondary in Medicare. And in this option, there's also drug coverage. It's Part D. That's your drug coverage. We'll talk about that a little bit also, because that's going to mean something in terms of open enrollment. And so that's one option. I'll give you something that people like about that option. No network. So if you have a supplement, original Medicare, you can see any doctor, any hospital that takes Medicare. Let's look at the second option. The second option is called a Medicare Advantage plan. That's called Part C. So there's your C. Medicare Advantage is like a managed care plan. It's private insurance. They sign a contract with Medicare and they take over Medicare. So they're going to provide that hospitalization, medical, drugs, all under a private insurance plan that is contracted with Medicare. Those can be very confusing, I think, for folks because they're all a little bit different and there's quite a few of them. And so we'll talk about that as well, because a Medicare Advantage plan and a Medicare drug plan, those are the things that you can make changes to in open enrollment. So we'll talk about that. There's your Medicare card, your red, white, and blue, right? Part A is your hospitalization. And I always say, think inpatient, because when Part A started, right, a hospital was a hospital. No, now a hospital can mean outpatient hospital. It can mean in observation in the hospital. So think of inpatient under that Part A, plus skilled nursing facility, home health care, and hospice. Those are the pieces and parts of Medicare A. And B is going to be your outpatient services, your doctors, providers, medical equipment, like if you need oxygen, you need a wheelchair, if you have a doctor's appointment, if you're doing some type of outpatient surgery. Those are the things that are going to fall under Part B. So just a reminder, if you're on Medicare, you know this. Medicare was never intended to pay 100% of healthcare costs. And the other thing, just to make sure, if you don't know, Medicare does not cover non-medically necessary services. And I hate this part. I hate delivering like not great news, but Medicare does not cover vision, dental, or hearing. Yeah, because we don't need that kind of insurance as we get older, do we? Right? but it doesn't. Medicare doesn't cover that. And it doesn't cover outside the US in most cases. So if you're planning a trip outside the US, get some travel insurance, because Medicare is not going to work all that well out of the US because it is a US insurance product. Some of the preventive benefits under Medicare, I like to call this out too. The preventive benefits, you don't have to pay a copay and you don't have a deductible. And so I always say, have a look at these every year. Well, the COVID-19 vaccination, that's part of preventive benefits. Screening tests, procedures. I like to look at some of these examples like flu, pneumonia shots, hepatitis B. So there are quite a few examples of preventive benefits, and you can check them out at Medicare's website because there are a long list of them. And that website is medicare.gov, not .com, not .net. You'll get people that are trying to sell Medicare products. It's medicare.gov. Here are some amounts in Medicare just for you to think about. Part A, that's your inpatient hospitalization. Mostly that is premium free for most people, like 99% of us. You get that without paying a premium on that because you have worked under Social Security for at least 10 years or your spouse has, so you can qualify off a spouse's record. Part A, hospital deductible. It's a little different than deductibles that you might know about. It's not an annual deductible. It's based on a benefit period. So if you go into the hospital as an inpatient, then you would be paying that $1,484. And what that does, that gives you your first 60 days in the hospital at a zero copay. And this is all under original Medicare. So you can see by the chart, if you're in the hospital longer, you would have copays. You would have copays in a skilled nursing facility as well. And I always tell folks, this makes a good argument of why a supplement is important. You need a secondary payer to help pay for some of these items. Part B, the monthly premium this year is $148.50. We don't have a number for next year. It usually changes around October at some point during open enrollment. That's when we find out about it. So if you are paying $148.50 this year, we'll see what it's going to bring for next year. Some folks might pay a little more than that $148.50 because it could be income based if you are I think it's like over 88,000 for an individual for this year. That changes every year too. So if you are earning over 88,000 per this year, then your Part B would actually be a little more than that because they can be income based over that mark. And late enrollees, you could also get a 10% penalty for each year of delay. So I hope none of you have that penalty. And just be sure, like if you talk to someone, maybe they don't know that much about Medicare, always remind them, call OSHIP, call OSHIP. They can tell you this stuff, and we can. Most people have no idea who we are until they start Medicare because they don't really need us until then. So you can always just call our hotline anytime and ask any of these questions. Your annual deductible this year is $203 under Part B. And that's a standard deductible like you've always paid in insurance. You pay that at the beginning of the year. Once you pay that, then Part B kicks in and starts paying that 80%. Again, a good reason to have secondary insurance. Just want to bring to light a Medicare savings programs. These are programs that are available to people on Medicare, and they are income based. We have a lot of times when we do events, we have like brochures that we take out. And I always say, I never leave home without these brochures because you never know if someone could be like meeting that income level. And if that were true, then you wouldn't have to pay a lot of those Medicare costs. So you can always call OSHIP, and if it doesn't apply to you, maybe you know someone, you know, and some of the activities that you do, or like certain neighbors, or where you might worship. There are folks that are meeting these programs and don't even realize it. So you can always call OSHIP and have them call OSHIP, and we can kind of talk you through what you need to do and qualify you right over the phone. Secondary insurance, again, I mentioned group health insurance from a former employer, and that is always going to pay how it's designed to pay. So they can all be different, but if you have group health insurance from a former employer or union or retirement system, then you would really need to get those materials every year and make sure that you understand how that's going to work, because they can all be very different. Medicaid, again, assistance for those with limited income and resources. So you would use Medicaid as a secondary payer to Medicare. Medicare supplemental insurance, that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit, so that you know how they work. And I know that if people are on Medicare, generally there's always a good representation of people that have these plans. So I thought it would be just a good little reminder of how they work. So if you have a Medicare supplement, there's no network. Again, I mentioned that. That's one of the things that people like about it. You can use any doctor, any hospital that takes Medicare. There are some plans called Medicare Select. This is in the slide, but not a lot of Ohio areas have these plans yet. They're supplements, but they act a little bit like a Medicare Advantage plan because they would have networks. Yeah, I told you Medicare is not easy sometimes. So this is one of those examples. It's a hybrid product. So we will know more about these as they come into Ohio, but we really don't see these plans just yet. And Medicare Supplement is only going to pay after original Medicare pays. So if Part A or B pays, then your supplement will step in and pay their portion. Depending on which supplement you have, you would have little or no out-of-pocket cost after you pay that monthly premium. So people like it for that reason. You don't have a lot of out-of-pocket, sometimes none, when you have certain supplements. But you know that you pay for those supplements every month, don't you? Whether you use it or not, you still have to pay for it. So I always explain to folks that are new to Medicare, it's kind of like your car insurance. So if you have a car, you know you've got to make monthly insurance payments, right? Whether you have a wreck or not. That's how a supplement works. We call that your pay up front option. So Medicare supplemental insurance plans, they're standardized, meaning all companies that sell these plans, they're the exact same plans from company to company to company. Sometimes you might hear from companies how theirs is different. No, it's the same. Medicare standardizes those plans, and they have very original government names like Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. So you could see the alphabet, and then a few of the alphabets dropped out over the years. And you might have heard Medicare plans C and F are no longer sold. So if you were new to Medicare after January of 2020, then you can no longer buy a plan C or an F. If you have a C or F that you're grandfathered in, you're good. You can keep them as long as you pay. As long as you pay for them, you can keep them. So what's going to be different with a supplement is how much you pay. So they're standardized, right? So let's say I have a G plan. A G is very popular in Ohio just because it covers a lot. It's a very comprehensive plan. So if you're going to get a G, what do? You get some quotes and you buy the cheapest G you can find because the premiums are not standardized. What is standardized is how they work, but the premiums are not. It's private insurance. Guaranteed issue, a lot of people have questions about this also, especially during Medicare's open enrollment, because you think this could be a time when you might be able to change. Let's say you have a supplement and you want to get a different supplement. Maybe you bought one that didn't have a lot of coverage at first, but now you're thinking that you might want to get one that has more coverage and pay a little bit more for it. And you will find out that open enrollment in the fall of the year is not part of a Medicare supplement. Open enrollment speaks to drug plans and Medicare Advantage plans only. Supplements are Not all that easy to buy once you're on Medicare. There's something called a guaranteed issue. So when you get your supplement for the first time, that's usually when you turn 65, or if you have a special circumstance, like you worked past 65, let's say. I actually had a gentleman, this is so crazy. He worked in a job, a full-time job, until he was 80 years old, and he had health insurance at work. Because he had health insurance at work, when he turned 80, he was a special circumstance. So because he had coverage that whole time with work insurance, so he would be able to pick up a supplement because he's in a special circumstance. So those generally are just about the only 2 times you can ever get a supplement. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that either. So I get a lot of questions this time of year about it. So if you have additional questions, make a note and I can answer specifically at the end. Or again, you can always just call OSHIP and they can answer a lot of the questions also. Medicare's open enrollment period. So it's coming up. It happens every year from October 15th through December 7th. And any change that you make in that period become effective January 1st. So the Medicare open enrollment period is meant for people that are already on Medicare and you have existing drug coverage. So what does that mean? Existing drug coverage. Drug coverage is going to be Part D, which works in that first option that we talked about with a Medicare Original and your supplement in Part D. And then it also applies to Part C, which is your Medicare Advantage plan. That's on that other side of the page because that has drug coverage in it also. Those are the 2 things that you can make changes to this year and every open enrollment. So what can change each year? Well, you know what? A lot of people don't realize this either. So if you have a Part D drug plan or if you have a Part C Medicare Advantage plan with drug coverage, oh yeah, premiums can change every year. I see that, monthly premiums. They don't usually go down, but monthly premiums can change from year to year because they only sign a 1-year contract with Medicare. The annual deductible can change every single year. Formulary, and you know what that is, that's the list of medication that this plan is going to cover for you. So your formulary can change every single year. And what if your medication is not covered next year? So that's what Medicare's open enrollment is all about, for you to look at your plans and then look ahead at the plans for next year, 2022. And you can do that as early as October 15th so that you know what those changes are. Your plan is also, by law, they have to send you information that tells you how your plan has changed. And they usually come in like booklets, they're like real thick. And I know when I get that in the mail, big thick booklet, I read it from beginning to end, don't you? Okay, all right, I just made that up. I don't read all those pages. You need to, because there are hidden things in there that you can find out about your drug plan. So what if your drug changed tiers? Like last year, it was a tier 1, right? A tier 1 is I always say the cheapo generic. That's your tier 1. A tier 2 is also generic, but it's a non-preferred generic. So as these tiers go up, they're going to get a little higher. Tier 3, that's your preferred brand. Tier 4, non-preferred brand. So the formulary and the drug tier can change each year. And of course, here's the big number, your copays, right? Copays can change. Last year, you might have picked something up and it was $10 for a 30-day supply. It could be $25. Yeah, I mean, it can change every single year. So I always tell folks to get in front of that so that you know, are you in the plan that's best for your personal list of medications? So we'll talk a little bit more about Part D. Offered by private companies that contract with Medicare. Again, a 1-year contract. So they're available 2 ways. Your Part D, we call that a standalone because it works in that first option. And then it's also available through a Medicare Advantage plan. That's your drug coverage if you're in one of the HMOs or the PPO plans. So you might not need Part D if you have creditable coverage. I always tell folks there's other coverage that can take the place of Part D, but the most common that we see would be like VA. So if you're able to get your meds at the VA, you don't have to have a Medicare Part D. You don't have to have that coverage. You can if you want, but you don't have to. So that's what creditable coverage is. So when you hear people, especially VA, talk about it, they get their meds there, but they do the rest of their Medicare like the rest of us. So again, the open enrollment period every year, October 15th to December 7th. So you can review your plans annually with OSHIP. And here's what I mean by that. You can call us on our 800 number and you can ask some questions, but you can say, can you look at plans and tell me if mine is going to be the best plan for me next year? And they'll be like, sure. What's your zip code? That's where they always start. What's your zip code? What county you live in? And do you have a list of your medications? Because remember, that's how you really buy these plans. It's based on the medicines that you take. There are 30 drug plans in Ohio this year. Yeah, 30. And there's a lot to choose from. Part D plans. If you are looking at your Medicare Advantage drug coverage, there's even more Medicare Advantage plans in the Cleveland areas. I think close to 70 plans to choose from. Do you want to compare 70 plans? No, nobody wants to do that. That would be awful. But what you can do, you can call us. We can like type in your meds and hit compare plans. And there's a computer program within Medicare's website that will tell you the 3 best plans for you, meaning the cheapest for your personal list of medications. So I always like to really spell that out for folks. And if you're not buying your Medicare drug plans that way, you could be just throwing a dart at a dartboard, hoping that you get one that meets your needs. You can also go to Medicare's website, medicare.gov. And you can, once you're on the home page, it'll say find health and drug plans. You can click on that and you can do what I mentioned to you that our hotline can do. You can enter your information in there and type in your medications and hit compare. And it would show you the plans for next year that are going to be maybe better than the one that you're in. But sometimes you learn that the one that you're in is still good for next year. That's good to know too. So that's really what Medicare open enrollment is really about, is that drug plan and that Medicare Advantage plan. So every year we like to say the 3 C's of PDPs because we think we're funny. We're probably not. So the 3 C's of prescription drug plans, that's what that PDP stands for. Convenience. Well, you know what? I want a mail order. Does this plan offer a mail order and is it cheaper? Network or preferred pharmacies. You know, even just a few years ago, you had a couple of types of networks. So it was out of network, which you never want to be out of network, right? Because you're paying full price for the meds. So you're out of network or you're in network. Now we have a preferred in network, and you'd be surprised to see in many of these plans how big a difference there is in a preferred network to just an in network. So that's a way that you could save money with your drug plan also. And that's something that you can find out in Medicare's open enrollment to see which pharmacies are going to work best with your plan. Coverage, we talked about the plans with formularies and how that works. And again, just, you know, be a smart consumer and take a formulary list with you when you see your physicians to see if they're going to like give you a new medication and you can take a generic of it. Talk to your doctor and find out which one of these might be cheaper for you. It's just important to know all those possible costs. And personally, I just think that the drug plan can be very complicated. And get to know your good friends at OSHA. We'll help you with this stuff. And did I mention we don't sell insurance? We are the Department of Insurance. We're the regulators of insurance in the state. So we're not going to try and sell you anything. We can't tell you what to do, even though you might want us to tell you what to do. We really can't do that. We give you information so that you can make a decision that works best for you. Okay. Now we've got the couple things. We've got a couple numbers from 2022. We don't have much yet. For example, these are your Part D, your drug costs. Your monthly premiums this year under 2021, we have premiums as low as $7.30 per month plus copays to $88.10 per month plus copays. We don't have those numbers yet for 2022. They haven't been released. We do know that the annual deductible this year can be anywhere from $0 to $445. That's the amount of your out-of-pocket before your plan begins to pay. And then next year, that's going to be $480 up to that amount. Your copays and co-insurance, pretty much a 25% or a flat amount whenever you are making copays on your meds. And then a catastrophic coverage from year to year, it's the same. It's a 5% copay. Catastrophic coverage applies if you have been in a coverage gap, and it doesn't happen to most people, but it's when someone is taking very expensive medications. It could change the way their drug plan pays for things. It can be extra confusing. But if you do have very expensive meds, you would go into a gap for a period of time where it was paid differently. And then as you continue through the year, you would be eligible for catastrophic coverage, which your 5% copay would be great. So that's what that is. So again, just a reminder, all plans have a different cost structure and formulary. They're going to be based on individual drug needs, and they change annually. And you should always review the explanation of benefits. I found that that's really the most helpful way for me to even see how drugs are covered. Whenever you get a prescription filled, you would get an explanation of benefits from your drug plan that month. So turn around the back and it will tell you like what phase you're in, and you can look at what you've spent for the year. Certainly, if you have questions about that, call our hotline. We answer those kind of questions all day long. And you could incur a 1% penalty if you didn't pick up your Part D when you should have. That 1% penalty, it's each month, doesn't go away. And that's applied to the average monthly premium in the country. So I think it's like $33 this year. So if you, you had maybe, I see people all the time, it's awful to say, it's a huge number, but I've seen people recently that didn't get a drug plan. They've been on Medicare for 10 years. That means they've racked up 10 years of monthly penalties to the tune of about 120%. Yeah. So if you're new to Medicare, remember, pick up that Part D plan when you pick up Medicare B. It's important to avoid those penalties. Something else I want to mention, there's a low income subsidy associated with your prescription drug plans. It's called Extra Help, and it's through Social Security. Again, it's based on your income and resources. So if you think you might qualify for something like that, or you know someone that might, this program you would find reduced or no premiums on your drugs, no deductibles, no more than a 15% copay. And if you did have penalties for some reason, and then you were eligible for this program, it would take those penalties away. So I always like to say, I never leave home without this one, because if someone is lower income and they take some expensive meds, this plan is a game changer. It really is for folks. And so I always like to shout it out that there are some programs based on income and resources that can help you with Medicare. So look, there we are. We've covered that first option, right? We have this one to go, but it's okay because I've laid the groundwork for you. So a Medicare Advantage, we'll talk about that so that you kind of understand how they work. I always say Medicare Advantage plans can have a lot of arms and legs on it. So it's important to understand how they work. So you have to have Medicare A and B, and you still pay your Part B premium if you have a Medicare Advantage. And you can buy a Medicare Advantage plan that's based on your county of residence. So when I said the Cleveland area, and there are some surrounding counties there that they have like 74 plans to choose from. Yep. There's no age or medical restrictions. So anyone can pick up a Medicare Advantage if they have Medicare A and B. And that's important because there are some folks that are on disability. And so once they're on disability for 2 years, then they are eligible for Medicare. So they can pick up one of the Medicare Advantage plans because you don't have to be 65 to buy that type of a plan. In Ohio, you do have to be 65 to buy the supplement that we talked about. So no age or medical restrictions in a Medicare Advantage. Keep in mind, it's that alternative to original Medicare offered by private companies, and it replaces your original Medicare. And we call these network plans because these plans are all going to have a network. I promise you, networks. HMO, which is very strict. Sometimes the networks are large, but they're strict in that if you go outside and get coverage outside of that network, guess what they're going to pay? Zero, because it's a strict network. A PPO, you're going to have greater choice there. You can go outside of the network because you will still be in a network, but you can go outside and take advantage of maybe someone that's out of the network, a specialist that you wanted to see. Just know that they would still pay, but they wouldn't pay as much as they pay for an in-network provider. And most of those plans are going to include Medicare Part D, like I mentioned. So that's your C option is Medicare Advantage, and it's going to have the drug coverage in there as part of that managed care plan. Networks, premiums, and copays vary by plan. Those are just a few words, but man, I tell you, that's a really big statement. Networks, premiums, copays. That's how your Advantage plan is going to work. So understanding your networks, is your doctor in the network? How about the hospital system that you're most comfortable with? Is that in your network? Looking at those things, and keep in mind, those things can change every year also. All those elements in a Medicare Advantage plan can change year to year. Premiums, copays, yeah, they can change every year. And it's funny because with Medicare Advantage, I can't tell you that the copays always go up. Yeah, there's a lot of competition with Medicare Advantage plans. So sometimes, because of the competition being so large, some of those copays actually go down. Yeah. So those are some of the things that you would need to look at in addition to the drug coverage. So this is where you really want OSHIP's help there too, so that we understand how these networks and these things work, so that we can answer questions that you might have in open enrollment in advance of you making any changes. So, you know, when I mentioned Joe Namath and JJ Dynamite Walker on TV talking about Medicare, they're talking about Medicare Advantage plans. So I wanted to give some examples of the extra benefits, because in terms of marketing, that's what you hear a lot. You hear a lot from Advantage plans about like some of their extra benefits, and they do provide great services and benefits. So if you looked at like the 3 top ones, right? Vision, dental, hearing. What did I say about original Medicare? It doesn't pay those, doesn't pay. So a Medicare Advantage might offer you some type of vision, dental, and hearing. Don't think that everything's free Some of these plans have a 0 monthly premium. They have a 0 deductible, but you would make copays as you used the plans. So the vision usually is maybe like one doctor visit a year for vision. I meant to say also, if it's a medical condition of the eyes, then of course Medicare would pay that. But vision, if you're seeing an optometrist to have your vision checked, some of the Medicare Advantage offers like some payment in that. Same for dental, same for hearing. Not big comprehensive dental, like think about if you had to have like 2 or 3 crowns, and you know how expensive that can be with a dentist. So it's usually not comprehensive dental, but they provide some dental. So understanding some of these extra benefits, gym memberships, I know you've heard of silver sneakers, that's really popular. Even like bathroom safety devices, caregiver support, social worker phone line. Yeah. So these are all some extra benefits. And this is how I tell folks to look at these. If you're looking at a Medicare Advantage plan, you would not look at those extras first. Make sure the meat and potatoes of your plan make sense. Make sure your doctors, hospitals are in the network. Make sure your drug coverage is good, right? So make sure that you look at those things. And then if you get some extras with a plan like that, it's all worth it. It's great. Has the same enrollment period. So it's when you take your Medicare, you can enroll on a Medicare Advantage that first year in Medicare, and you can make changes to it every year if you want to during open enrollment. October 15th through December 7th, and your coverage would begin January 1. And in the last couple of years, Medicare has even offered an additional Medicare Advantage enrollment period for the first 3 months of the year, which I think is just great because you have the open enrollment period in the fall, and this gives you another 3 months where you can make changes to that Medicare Advantage plan. So you have to be in a Medicare Advantage plan January 1 in order to be eligible for this enrollment period. But let's say you didn't pay attention in the open enrollment, and then you went to the pharmacy in January and your medication was like crazy expensive. This would be a good example of why this period can be really important, that you'd be able to make a change a plan that maybe has like better coverage for your needs. So I always like to tell people about that because it's new, and I don't think a lot of people fully realize that. So what if you want to move around, right? If you want to move from a supplement to a Medicare Advantage, well, that's pretty easy to do. Anytime there's an open enrollment period, you can move from your supplement to a Medicare Advantage plan. Easy. What about supplement to supplement? Not as easy, because you might not be in that guaranteed issue period where you can buy a supplement and they can't turn you down. So there is no annual open enrollment period for a supplement, because if you aren't covered by a guaranteed issue, then they can ask you health questions. They can rate you based on your health, and they can charge you any rate they want. Or they could say, sure, we'll take you, or they can say, we're going to pass. So the insurance company is in the driver's seat of a Medicare supplement, especially as you're in Medicare for a few years and you don't have any type of guaranteed issue. Can you go from Medicare Advantage to Medicare Advantage? Sure, we just talked about that. You could do that about like half the year between the enrollment periods. Can you go from Medicare Advantage to supplement? I get this question a lot too in open enrollment. They want to go to a supplement, like maybe their health has changed, or they're tired of a network, or for whatever reason, they might want to switch to a supplement. And that's when you find out that if you're not in guaranteed issue, then you might not be able to buy one. So it can be difficult conversation to have. So again, if you've got questions around any of this, call our hotline and we can talk you through that. And finally, protection against Medicare fraud. I just want to bring up a few things here. Like the first thing is, you know how I mentioned that what we do, we're the education arm of Medicare. Well, the SMP, the Senior Medicare Patrol, they're the fraud and education arm of Medicare. So a couple of things to, especially during open enrollment, report any kind of improper agent activity. And that's our phone number there. You can call us and report something, or you could call the Senior Medicare Patrol, that 800 number at the bottom of the screen. Some things to look out for: door-to-door sales are not allowed in Medicare. Yeah, they can't just knock on your door. You have to have an appointment. They can't give you cash gifts or gifts exceeding $15. They can't have any kind of high pressure sales tactics, misrepresenting a plan or giving you incomplete information. I see that from time to time. Or representing themselves as Medicare. That one just makes me like so crazy, because Medicare doesn't sell insurance. They couldn't sell it if they wanted to. So if any of these things come up, get the information that you can get and report it. Chances are, if it's happening where you are, it's probably happening around the state, probably around the country. I mean, Medicare fraud, oh my goodness, is in like the billions of dollars. So if there's anything that's just doesn't seem right to you, doesn't feel right, give us a call, or you can call the 800 number for the Senior Medicare Patrol, and they will respond. Ta-da! That was fast, wasn't it? That was a lot of information in a small amount of time. So I take questions if anyone has any.
I was going to say, thank you for that crash course. I mean, Medicare, I mean, as you talked about, you get those books every year. They can be thick and a lot of pages on it, a lot of information. So to cram that into 45 minutes is impressive. So thank you so much. If anyone does have questions, please feel free to put them into the chat or the Q&A. There is a question here already in here, Mary. So
okay.
Someone asked, so the person said on February 1st, but let's just say end of open enrollment. Open enrollment's over. You selected your plan and you think you're all set because this is what everything you have right now is there. And then all of a sudden your doctor prescribes a new to the person medicine that is not on their formulary. Maybe it's even a tier 5 drug. Is there any options available to them? Do they have recourse option? How would you best talk to this person on that?
Okay. Well, if you're in a Medicare Advantage plan, that's where you get your drug coverage, you would have those additional 3 months, the first part of the year. If you are in a Medicare Part D with that original Medicare option, then you would not have an open enrollment period again until the fall of the year. I think that's a tough one. It really is hard. If there's other medications that your doctor can certainly prescribe that would work as well, I would certainly ask those questions. I just think sometimes doctors just say, here's what I'm going to give you. And I've done it. I've asked questions. I said, well, how cheap is that? Is there a cheaper one? And they're like, nope, I want you on this one. Yeah, bad news. Here's the good news though. He wants you on that one. Then maybe that's the best one for the condition that you have. There are some programs available based on the manufacturer. So sometimes you might find something through the doctor's office. I always ask that question. And I tell people to ask. I know if any of you are on Eliquis, for example, that one is like, everyone takes Eliquis. And that was about $500 a month. Yeah, if you paid out of pocket, if there wasn't coverage. So if your plan didn't cover a med like that, that would be pretty difficult to take. There are a lot of programs that doctors can get you signed up. Even if you're on Medicare, they can get you signed up for a program through the pharmaceutical companies. So there's that. Always ask that question. You might want to just double check. Call us. Are you eligible for that low income subsidy? If you are on your drug plan, then you can make changes every quarter of the year. So there are some ways through that, but if you don't qualify for any of those, that's a tough one. You've got to limp through that year until you can get it into the next year and make a change.
So talk to your doctor, see if that's the only medication available,
That's
and if
right.
not, if there's one on your formulary, call OSHIP too. See if there's something there, such as the subsidies available, or just honestly just be thankful that there's something to actually treat the condition at the end of the day. So
That's a tough one. I don't have a great answer always when it comes to the Part D plans.
yeah. And then come the time next year, you know what to be on the lookout for. So
That's right.
and another question here is,
Sure.
so if you're on an employer GHI that is an Advantage plan, but want to go back to original Medicare plus a supplement plan, how would you kind of go about that?
Okay, so you have a retirement plan through an employer.
It sounds that way from the question.
And it's a lot of times, excuse me, it is an Advantage plan. Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
No worries.
So usually those are Medicare Advantage plans that I always say they add more to it. It's kind of like a Medicare Advantage on steroids.
Mhm.
So it's not just like a Medicare Advantage that you can buy, like anyone can buy, but they take that one as the base and they add some different things to it. So a lot of employers have that kind of plan. If you wanted to look at a Medicare supplement, yeah, and you're not in the guaranteed issue, that can be kind of a tough one. So understanding a couple of things. If you leave this company sponsored plan, what if you change your mind? What if that wasn't a great decision? You just didn't fully understand the benefits and maybe you left and you wanted to come back. Most of them say, see ya. They don't let you come back. So there's that. But I think this would be a good time to, you can call OSHIP before open enrollment. And you can have your plan in front of you, how that plan works, and you can ask them about supplements and how they might pay. We can compare like that so that you could see that maybe your plan is a little better than what you realized, or maybe it's not. I see plans from time to time that I have to read like 10 times because I'm like, no way, you're out of pocket for the year is $500, period. I'm like, don't ever get rid of this plan. That's unheard of. Keep this plan forever, even though I'm not allowed to tell you what to do. I would say, keep this plan. There's nothing better out there. So understanding how your plan works is the first thing I would say. And then let's look at to see if we can get you into a supplement if that's what you want. So that would be a good thing for our hotline to answer.
And so, yeah, so talk to the hotline and two, for Kendal at Home members, two of our care coordinators, Katie Tipton and Terry Lanham, are OSHIP certified to answer questions as well. So if one of those is your care coordinator, or if one of those, if you don't have Katie or Terry as your care coordinator, talk to your care coordinator. They'd be happy to direct you over to Katie and Terry, and they can work with you from there too to figure out what might be the best option for you. To maybe even talk to your, as Mary said, like find out what the specifications are. If you leave the employer plan, are you off it now? Like maybe talk to your HR department too, or whoever runs that plan to kind of see, have other people done this and what other situations are out there for you on it. Another question here is it advisable to get advice from an agent or a broker? Should we be going straight through the websites? What should we be doing?
So there are great insurance brokers and agents all over Ohio. It's great. A lot of people are great. Every now and then you might find like a little iffy who's going to try and sell you something that they're going to get like a better price on for themselves. That situation, it's so funny. It came up with my uncle. He was telling me about his medications and how much they cost. And I'm like, what? That sounds crazy. That's not right. What plan do you have? This was a different state even. And so I looked everything up and I'm like, oh my gosh, you've been paying a huge premium that you have two tier one drugs. You could have been paying $7 a month and you were paying $80 a month. So sometimes, and here's the bad part, that was my cousin. My cousin was the insurance agent that sold that to him. Right? Isn't that crazy?
You would think that you would get the family benefit of trying to help out the relative a little bit more, like the family discount, you know?
Exactly. And I think sometimes, things get in the way. I don't know, but there are great firms out there. Trust me, there are great people that you can talk to. If you have, I don't know, like if you have insurance on your car or something, you have a great one already in other areas, talk to them. You can always, I would probably not check a little box on the internet saying, give me more info, because you're going to get a phone call in about 2 minutes if you do that, because you have allowed them to try and talk to you about selling a product. So I think it's like agents, brokers are good. You know someone, call OSHIP. We can give you some quotes on products. We can't sell it, but we can do live quotes on some things. So we can help you with that.
Absolutely. We got some comments on good humor throughout. So we appreciate that, because sometimes these topics, while important, sometimes the most important topics are also the most difficult to get through. So
Absolutely.
thank you for the humor there on it. I do, and if anyone else has any questions or comments, please feel free to throw them in the Q&A or chat. I do want to just highlight some upcoming events here. So we do have up next for us all at Kendal at Home is going to be the first one there is on Tuesday, October 5th at 11 a.m. We are going to have a fourth quarter end of the year tax strategies a discussion, and that's going to be with Brad Norton of Winfield Associates. So he's going to go through that, make sure you're set up, all the accounts are in the right way, give you some insights to make sure you're best set up for 2022 and beyond. And then on Friday, October 8th, pardon me, at 11 a.m., it's titled Accidental Artist, and that's going to be with one of our members, actually, Sheila Markowitz. She is a digital artist, and so she's going to be talking about her art, how she kind of came about this and transitioned into this career path and interest. And she actually has a art installation up right now in the Kendal at Home office. So if you are driving by in Westlake and want to stop by the office to see it, you're more than happy to do so, to check that out. It's honestly really cool seeing the art that she's been able to create. And then on Tuesday, October 28th at 11 a.m., there's going to be a voting rights from 1965 to 2021 and beyond. And that's going to be with Professor Patrick Wolfarth. So he's going to go through that and talk about the history of voting rights and how things have progressed. So, and then all of those are going to be sponsored by Friends Foundation for the Aging as well. So that's what we got there. I'm gonna stop share. So I think that's it. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at future events, whether it's the financial one on October 5th, whether it's the art one on October 8th, or dealing with voting rights and history on the 28th of October. But Mary, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us about this very important topic of Medicare. And again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact the OSHIP hotline, contact Kendal at Home to get in touch with Katie or Terry, and we'd be more than happy to discuss going forward. So thank you all, and have a great day.
Bye, thank you.